It is time to continue our Born to be Bad series this Tuesday morning with a look at troubled teens this time around. When is your teen's crazy behavior just a phase, and when should you really start to worry about it? Joining us this morning to talk about your teen is Dr. Jeffrey Bernstein, author of 10 Days to a Less Defiant Child. Good morning, Dr. Bernstein.
Good morning, Connie.
You know, when you look at that at the title, a lot of parents who have teens are going, 10 days? I can do this in 10 days?
Right.
Undo what has developed over the last 15 years. What age really do teens start to lash out?
Well, a lot of these behaviors that are defiant really start around the preteen years.
Yeah.
You can see some of the markers around 10, 11, and then certainly a lot of times as the kids get to 13, 14, they can really intensify.
For people who have maybe 2 and 3 and 4-year-olds who have little temper tantrums, is that a prelude of the magnitude they can ratchet up when they get older?
Not necessarily. I've seen a lot of children when they're younger and they kind of mellow out. So there's no one predictor. Parents shouldn't panic if their kids have a lot of that at early age.
That's good to know. What are some of the biggest reasons that kids start to act out when they get into their teens?
I think for a lot of kids, they feel isolated. They maybe feel very influenced by some peers that are a negative influence. Mm-hmm. They're frustrated. They don't feel understood is a huge one. And then when their parents don't understand them, they may say things or act a certain way that the kid doesn't like.
Yeah.
And then their defiant behavior becomes their most reliable voice.
It's the way they're going to speak because nobody's listening.
Right.
Sometimes they can also feel a little too controlled, and that's probably parents being a little afraid that if they let the reins go too much, that the kid's going to get crazy.
Right. But with some kids who are more prone to defiant behavior, they get very reactive, and if the parents are too controlling and they don't bypass the child's reactivity, the kid just can really explode.
Yeah. So it feels like then it kind of becomes a vicious cycle in that if you're angry at the child, then the child gets angry, and then it comes back around again. Nobody feels like they're getting their voice heard.
Absolutely. I mean, the child doesn't feel understood. The parent gets more frustrated. Then the child acts more defiant because that's the way they cope with it. The parent gets more frustrated. Yeah. Around we go.
You never really have a teenager who sits down and says, well, now, Mom, I know how you're feeling, so let's sit down and really work through this.
No, you
don't. So the parent has to do that.
But the exciting part is that if the parent really doesn't try to clamp down too hard and keeps an understanding ear out, more often than not, that kid is very willing to talk.
Yeah, so let's give some tools to people out there who have kids who are a little defiant. What should we be doing right now to kind of calm the waters again and begin anew?
Don't overly label your child, because you give a kid a label, they live up to it.
Okay.
Lead with understanding. I never had an adult in my practice turn and look at themselves and say, what screwed up my childhood was my parents were too understanding.
Right.
So always be understanding. Don't make snap judgments. If you have a gut thought as a parent, monitor it. More often than not, if something's going on with a kid and you think it, keep an eye on it, but don't get overly reactive.
Okay, and there are no bad kids, just bad behaviors.
Right. I think it's very important that we don't overly label a child.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Dr. Jeffrey Bernstein, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. The book's called 10 Days to a Less Defiant Child.